NBC, 1 week from Wednesday. Exclusive access to the Bush White House with Tom Brokaw. Inside the real West Wing. 1 week from Wednesday on NBC.
We're back at 1:30 on this Monday morning. It's the 14th day of January 2002, a birthday celebration for today as we celebrate 50 years of broadcasting. And you're listening to the Hellcats, part of the United States Military Academy Band. That's the Army's oldest active band and the oldest union at West Point. This morning they're under the direction of Sergeant Major David Breezy, and we thank them for helping us celebrate 50 years. And by the way, if you think we're having a big celebration, we should tell you that the folks at West Point are celebrating their bicentennial, so we congratulate them on that terrific achievement. And outside Studio 1A, I'm Matt Lauer along with Katie Couric and Ann Curry.
I feel like we should be marching around the plaza.
Coming up in this half hour, we could not be on the air for 50 years if it weren't for the people at home watching, so we'll pay tribute to our viewers in just a few minutes, and then you have some special guests.
I do. We're going to be talking to my predecessors in the anchoring chair, the news anchoring chair. Faith Daniels is here, Deborah Norville, Mr. Edwin Newman, and John Palmer, all joining us in this half hour.
And I think that drum's going to continue for the entire half hour. Also, Shalit has seen thousands of movies through the years, interviewed hundreds of celebrities. Obviously, Gene has some terrific memories of being on this program. He'll be here to share those with us. And also, Tony Bennett's going to sing us a special happy birthday song.
You know, we could broadcast for 50 years, but without people at home watching, it would be ridiculous. So we sent NBC's Bob Dodson across the country to talk to viewers and have them share their memories of today.
Look out!
We don't remember days. We remember moments.
Now go away.
One of my very earliest memories is of J. Fred Muggs stealing the set. I was drawn in by this wonderful little chimp.
Barbara Vaughn and her brother Richard Miller grew up with Today. Literally.
I was bigger and meaner and bossier, and so I actually invented this little game that I played Jack LaScooley and made him be J. Fred Muggs and make him sit down and be quiet a lot.
I want to be like him, you know. I mean, nobody tells him what to do, right? He does his own thing.
More than 1,200 television shows on NBC have come and gone since Today signed on. But this show survives. Viewers across the country tell us why.
It's the first show that I remember watching that I felt like this connection to someplace else in the world. My town was very small, so to see all these people walking by that window was a sense that there was a big city, a larger world out there.
There are a lot of places people like me can never go, never see, never do. And it opened an opportunity to see these things and go those places and meet those people.
I rely on the Today Show to bring that world to me, and that's why I always come back to it, because I feel a connection.
So these are for you.
Thank you so much. Now,
This show thrives, they say, not just because of its anchors or news coverage, its travels or guests, but because from the beginning we have had a mission.
A very great sense of history.
We're going to try very much to put you more closely in touch with the world we live in.
I think Dave Garroway invented the peace sign.
We'll see you about that same old time then.
At the end of every hour, Dave would hold his hand up.
Thank you for this morning, and peace.
I thought that was a very direct and simple and beautiful statement, all in one word. Look at what we're facing today. If Dave were around, he'd still be saying that.
When the bombings first happened, on September 11th, I completely turned the TV off.
Leanne Lopez did not want the images of terror to traumatize her 6-year-old son, Bryce. He was already worried that his idol, Matt Lauer, was too close to ground zero.
When I was 2, I dressed like Matt Lauer.
He started wearing shirts that only buttoned. That's what we really noticed. At least he's never wanted to dress up like Jennifer Lopez.
Most of all, after September 11th, he just wanted to see Matt again.
We turned the TVs on when they stopped showing all of the images quite so much. Bryce kind of walked into the room while I was watching it, and he said, he said, "Oh, there's Matt. He's okay. That's good." It was a sign that, okay, things are getting back to normal.
The Today Show lasts, they say, because every day it's the story of us. And so, for 50 years, Today Show fans have been amazingly loyal. But little Bryce Lopez told his mom the other day he no longer would dress like Matt Lauer.
He said, "Well, I want to be handsome, but not too handsome."
Not to worry. Some things do not go out of fashion. For today, Bob Dotson, NBC News, New York.
Aw, what a cute story. Little Bryce, you need to invite him up as your guest on the show.
Bryce, everything's all right. We're returning to normal.
Anyway, now time for a check of the weather with Mr. Roker here on the plaza. It's cold out.
Yes, it is, Katie, but it's actually 40 degrees. It's a nice temperature for January. We're doing okay.
In other words, stop complaining.
Stop
right?
whining is what I was going to say. But we'll have wine later with our toast. But first of all, and hopefully you're having an English muffin, we've got Elliot Cooker here. He runs Cooper's Classic Cars, and you brought a bunch of 1952 cars here. What people were driving when Dave Garroway first broadcast the show. Give us just a quick rundown. What's this one?
This is a Plymouth. It's a business coupe. This is the bare bones coupe.
And then the next one?
The next one over here is a Chrysler, which is a family sedan.
You got a convertible.
Then over here is a sexy, sporty car. This is a convertible.
And pickups were big back then.
Oh, pickups were very big back then. They were used by farmers. They were used by businessmen. And now pickups are the chicest, hottest things on the market.
And
right
you got
now.
a Cadillac
and
here.
This was the ultimate. This was the finest car that we had here in America. If you were rich, you had to have a Cadillac. And this was a beautifully made car. This was our American Rolls Royce. And this is the convertible.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Elliot Cooker. Cooper Classic Cars. What Dave Garroway and the gang would have been driving back in 1952. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. One of these do you want? I can wrap them up for you.
I'll take the pickup truck, Al.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Coming up on this 50th anniversary, some of the people who brought you the news every morning. But first, these messages.
Since March 1997, I've held the job of news anchor here on Today, and I've been very proud to carry the torch for my many distinguished predecessors, 4 of whom join us this morning. Edwin Newman, Deborah Norville, John Palmer, and Faith Daniels. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Pleasure to see all of you. Let's start with you, Mr. Newman, because you actually have been on the show since it began. You were first a correspondent, and then in 1961, you became the news anchor. One of the major stories that you covered was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Was that a highlight for you?
Yes, 50 years ago, wasn't it?
It was. And what do you remember of the moment of covering the story? You were in London, obviously.
I was in London, and of course, essentially what you did in those days, even though today's show is television, you were doing, in effect, what were radio pieces to accompany film or photographs that somehow could be put on in New York. You'd do a spot to go along with footage that New York had or was hoping to get. Might take a day or two to get there.
One of the things that you did that was so innovative is that you actually interviewed yourself for your book, which became a bestseller, called Strictly Speaking, and that's a book about language. Why did you do that?
Well, I was very happy to do it, but I can't claim any credit for it. The idea that I should do the interview with myself was Stuart Schulberg. Stuart was the producer of the show in those days, and the theory behind it was that nobody else was capable of interviewing me on the subject of English.
Did you like the book, Ed?
We all love the book, right? Really, exactly. We read it in college, in fact. Deborah, you became the news anchor in 1989, and then later you became the anchor of the show,
right.
co-anchor of the show, and it has gone through many innovations since Edwin Newman's time. But, you know, one of the things that you remember the most is a segment you did with Jane Pauley.
Yeah, when you were the news anchor in those days, as is still the case, oftentimes if in that case Jane or Bryant weren't around, you would just end up doing both jobs. You would do your job as the news anchor, and then you'd pop over and be the co-host. And this was Christmas time, and at that time Today was doing the 12 Days of Christmas, and this particular day was Gifts for the Chef. And on this day I was going to talk about the products, and Jane was sort of the Carol Merrill role. And the product we were talking about was a overnight bread maker, and it was, remember, it made the square loaves of bread, and I think we've got a clip, so maybe we just throw it up there. Let's see what happens. It didn't really work. And if there's someone on your list who loves to cook, here are some suggestions for you. And I am being assisted this morning by the noted culinary expert, Jane Pauley. This is a bread maker.
I have a bread knife and the butter. You work on the bread, I'll work on the butter.
Oh, it came out. Look at this. How unusual. This is the hottest seller by Faberware. It's a microwave coffee maker. Stick it in the microwave and you cook it for 2 minutes. I don't know how to make this go.
Make it go?
Sorry. Microwave.
Live
I couldn't
television.
find the button to make the thing cook. I had come in at 4 in the morning to practice putting the water, and Jane couldn't slice the bread. I couldn't make the microwave go. And the next day, when I came into work, there was a little name and a star on my door, and one on Jane's, and mine said Ethel, and hers said Lucy.
John, you became the news anchor before Deborah in 1982, and one of the running jokes was that, you know, you were never allowed to go on some of these trips. And in fact, let's take
It wasn't a joke.
Not to you, anyway. Let's take a look at this
and
clip.
Brian. John, thank you. I'll manage to say it at least once each day. We do miss you. We wish you were along.
Back now to all that fun in New Orleans and Brian Jane.
John, we do miss you. I made a commitment that I'd say that at least once a day, every day this week, and so now you got it.
Back to Buenos Aires and Brian Campbell.
All right, John, thanks very much. We wish you could be down here enjoying some of this nice weather with us.
Back to Rome, the Vatican, and Brian.
We do miss you. We want you to know that.
Back once more to Rio and Brian.
All right, John, have I told you we missed you today?
Well, you did, however, get to take one trip.
There was one that was on the Norway, an ocean liner that went down the East Coast, and I got to go one day and enjoy the cast and crew down there.
Okay. I'm so sorry that we're running out of time.
Yes, of the United States.
But Faith, I've got to ask you, you started this job in 1990, and there was one moment, and we're going to take a look at this as we're talking about it.
He gets the coronation of the Queen, and my defining moment is this.
Right, exactly. A light blows.
The Democratic Party's front-running president candidate is trying to... I think we just blew a light.
What did you think happened?
I knew it was a light blown because I was once reading a story about a mob hit and a light blew, and everybody took cover, you know, when it went. So I knew right away, but the guys on the crew, I think, were more startled than I.
I know, exactly. At one point, Mark Traub, our stage manager, has a hard hat on as well.
Right.
It is great to see all of you. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you,
Comer.
There he is.
Faith Daniels.
That's what I remember most of the good times behind the scenes. You guys are all terrific to work with.
On that, and that is actually true still today. Edwin Newman, Deborah Nickel, thank you so much, all four of you, for joining us. All right, up next, the hardest working movie critic in television history, Gene Shalit's greatest hits. But first, this is a special 50th anniversary edition of Today on NBC.
Now, are you happy with what you've done to my hair?
Oh, no, I should have known.
Not quite right?
No, it's okay.
It's okay now?
Well, I can't help it.
I can't either.
No, it's impossible.
Gene Shalit has been covering the world of entertainment on Today for more than 30 years, and over that time he's seen thousands of movies, so we asked him to put together one of his own. Gene, good morning.
Well, we have a little one. You know, the past 30 years on this show for me have been filled with laughter, and one thing that I've known is what camera to look for, where the laugh will come from, and where the laughter will start.
What a pleasure to be here with Gene Shalit. This is NBC, the best, Gene Shalit.
One bright day, Academy Award-winning Italian actor and comedian Roberto Benigni and I were taking a stroll around Lincoln Center in New York City when a whole group of Italian tourists showed up, and they were startled to see their hero. Stand up here. Stand up on this chair. These people all came to see the Pope in Colorado.
They met the Pope and Benigni.
I'm going to ask them Pope or Benigni, and whoever gets the loudest cheer wins.
Allora lui ora dice il nome e voi applaudite. Quello che applaude di più c'ha la migliore. Vai.
Okay, wait. First, the Pope. Okay, and now Roberto Benigni. I think it's a tie.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks has spent his whole life making people laugh. So I remember the day that I said, Mel, what makes you laugh?
A Jewish man about 72, 73, rocking on the porch of a Borscht Belt resort, singing, dancing in the dark, in the wrong key. Starting too high. Dancing in the dark. That's too high, he started. That's a high song. You don't start there. Kill the tune and we're dancing in the dark and it's so nice. And we can face the music. Says amen. Dancing sing. It's very hard.
Not everything starts out funny. Expect the unexpected. That's the rule on the Today Show. We were doing a story in a dining car on Amtrak, cruising along the Hudson River. You know, this may be the only restaurant in the world with a moving mural. Nothing funny about that until you see an outtake from the cutting room floor. You know, I think this may be the only restaurant in the world that has what used to be a moving mural. When Carol Channing began telling me about a London dinner party conversation, I didn't know what was going to happen next. What happened next was that I laughed my Lady Astor off.
I told him when I close my show here, I would like to go to Istanbul. And he said, when you go to Istanbul, so I said, I beg your pardon. So he said, I say, when you go to Istanbul, so finally, after repeating it 3 or 4 days, I said to Lady Astor, do you know what is Sir Benjamin saying? And she said, oh, he's saying, when you get to Istanbul, you must taste the cherries. They're as big as golf balls. So I said, well, now wait a minute. I said, how do you know what the judge said? So Lady Astor said, she said, oh, well, that's what they always say when you're on your way to Istanbul.
And we want to close this morning with a magnum of a very special wine, Chateau Latour of 1952. The wine experts have found this. John Brecher and Dorothy Gator, co-authors of the Wall Street Journal's Tastings column. Thank you so much to you all.
Thank you. It's a 1952 Chateau Latour. Great year for TV, not a great year for wine, except for this one.
All right. Thank you very much. You know, as we say goodbye, of course, some things do stand the test of time. National monuments like Mount Rushmore, qualities like kindness and compassion, insects like cockroaches, and performers like Cher, and people like you. With gratitude, respect, and affection, we salute you all.
And because change has always been one of the trademarks of today, we know that we'll only occupy these jobs for a certain amount of time. So why don't we all raise a glass and toast the people who have the privilege of being a part of today over these next 50 years. Cheers, and thank you so much.
Cheers and cheers. Hi, Jonah. Nice to see you. We want to thank everyone who helped us celebrate and say with all our hearts on this Monday morning here on Today. Jonah's very fascinated by our wine, by the way. He
How you doing?
He recognizes his uncle.
Thanks for the memories, everybody.
Here we are. Good morning. All right, Dave. Brother Galloway, are you there?
That's the easiest thing I've done all morning.
Monday again, fans. Time for today.
This would be a necessary step.
Besides, with this burgeoning studio along with the day yesterday.
Friendship, this is the only way I know. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Barbara. How are you?
National anthem.
That's right. 1930.
Star Spangled Banner. It's white and hot.
Colleges and universities. Because Arizona John.
Same old John.
The victims of Alzheimer's. The selection of it.
8:05. And we'll switch our attentions to states.
Feeling, Bob. I'm sure.
Anyway, who is who? Bundled up and hatted up Katie Couric.
Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
No.
Thank you, and peace.